Welcome to Okon Bros. This is Eric.
And I am Michael.
Today we have on Jennifer Keltner. Jennifer is a trailblazer to end human trafficking, out-of-the-box thinker, changemaker, freedom-focused guide. She currently is the founder, creator, and chief freedom officer of Rescue Party Give. She has a story in corporate America and corporate travel. So very curious how she made the transition from that universe to
It's a
this
lot of
universe.
hats. Jennifer,
Yes.
that's a lot of hats to wear.
And we're super excited to learn about what Jennifer is working on. So yeah, we're happy to have you here.
Thank you. Yeah, so the transition, it was very interesting. I have been in corporate travel and meetings for years, the travel industry, love it. About 11 years ago, my brother-in-law actually called me up and told me that he was leaving the country and he was moving out of the country with his young family. His youngest wasn't even one, to address the issue of human trafficking. Wow. And because of my brother-in-law and what he was doing, I learned what was going on. And I decided, while I couldn't move with them to Bolivia, I decided I could figure out a way to help. And so I just started getting really involved, volunteering. So about 11 years ago, I just really got into what was happening in the world, figuring out which nonprofits that I could actually support and help. And so I've been very involved in just listening and just realizing that our industry, as well as all industries, have been affected by this.
Eric and I are in a bubble here. Eric and I are in a bubble on the North Shore of Long Island. What is human trafficking? What is this?
Human trafficking for dummies.
I don't know. I've never met anyone involved in this. You're the first person. And obviously I abhor anything that has to do with, hurting children or hurting people in general. But what is human trafficking?
So it's actually there's a broader term of modern day slavery.
Oh my God.
And so human trafficking is basically the whole idea of taking an individual and making them under force do, like, either there's the sex trafficking, and there's child trafficking, and there's labor trafficking, and that's human trafficking. Individuals become a commodity.
Oh my God.
So how is this even going on in 2020? How is this even a topic?
It's, you know what? It's $150 billion industry.
What?
Yes, it's grown huge.
Where does this occur? Like, again,
everywhere.
like, really?
Does it occur in the United States?
Yes. It's in your own neighborhood.
Really?
Yes, and that is kind of where I'm in a position to kind of raise that awareness, raise that bar. I did a lot with different other nonprofits in our industry, raising that awareness while I was working with the large Japanese automotive company. Mm-hmm. I would do events. I was on the West Coast, so West Coast of California, but we would do movie screening events and bring the whole travel industry community together. Mm-hmm. So I was just very involved in raising this. It's not just a global issue. It is a domestic issue here in our.
So what are you doing to raise awareness, and what can people do to help?
Well, it's interesting. I kind of was in that situation where I was trying to figure out what I was supposed to be doing, after whether to get back into corporate world, but I left my corporate position and I was just trying to figure out what should I do. And I actually went on a very spiritual, faith-based journey myself. And so I was in Texas, and I just really just started praying about what that next role would be. I was throwing rescue parties in my own home, where I was around the holiday about 2 years ago. I was bringing friends together, doing a holiday party, sharing products that women, that were rescued. They created and made handmade products from different countries. I had them in different areas of my room. Then I also just showed film about what is going on and the work of other organizations as much. But I felt myself in last year, while I was still living in Texas, I created my own nonprofit. I actually thought I was going to go work
Amazing.
for another nonprofit.
Right.
And I went to many of these nonprofits, and it was funny because as I was going out to them, I would either be given like, well, you don't have a track record for raising $1 million. And I'm
Right.
thinking, wow, I helped some of these nonprofits make $1 million in an evening at
Right.
different events. And also, just people would say, look at my background, and they'd say, well, you want too much money. And I was like, I'd do this for free.
Right.
So in the end, I decided I was going to do things differently, and I was going to do it my way, much better. So I created nonprofit Rescue Party with the word give. And I want to say that that message came to me more so from a dream, but it was the idea that I would have people give their talents. I wasn't necessarily looking for money. I was looking for people, everyone to get involved. So we did an amazing event in Dallas, Texas. I've done 2 events there, but last year I did a party where WeWorks donated space for us, and I had artists paint what freedom looked like, and we auctioned their paintings.
Very nice.
I had musicians sing songs of freedom, and again, we showed film there. I did tap into our industry, and American Airlines was generous enough to give us tickets. They gave tickets to the Dominican Republic. I coordinated that with them. I arranged that, and I took a group of people to see what was going on in the Dominican
Wow.
with human trafficking. So a small group. So there was 2 from my nonprofit and 2 that were winners from the evening of the event. And we got to go see what was happening. And it was eye-opening. It was hard to see. I have to admit, being in our industry, being in the travel industry for years, I saw it, but I looked the other way too. So while I was taken to Thailand, they would take me to the areas where it would be like, oh, this is the tourist area. And literally, it was an area where girls were just flowing in the streets, shouting at us. And I remember looking the other way.
Right.
So it's one of those things where I just can't look the other
Well,
way
it's
anymore.
it's never too late to make a change. I want to get back to your spiritual journey because that always fascinates Michael and I. We're very big into spiritualness and self-improvement and the universe and the law of attraction. So
Mhm.
what have you mentioned that? Explain, did you do research on that? Is it more religious than
Has your
spiritual?
spirit did you have did you have a spiritual awakening, or has this been a lifelong journey? I'm on a lifelong journey of spirituality, of enlightenment. Like it's taking it's there's books, there's learning, there's so many levels. And if you think you could read one book on spirituality and be a master at it, I mean, I feel like I'm in 3rd grade with spirituality,
Yeah.
and I have to get to my PhD level, and I've been studying for years on spirituality.
So, yeah, you know what? The first book I picked up, which was funny, was I liked the title, The Purpose-Driven Life.
Oh
What
yeah.
on earth are we here for?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
I was like, I want to know. I was going through a time in my life that I just wasn't sure what I was supposed to be doing.
Mhm.
And so I picked that book up, and I remember getting to a chapter which was 12, which said, "Are you a bunny believer?" And hopping from church to church to try to find where your purpose is.
Right.
And so I was in Texas. Texas is a very conservative state, a lot of churches.
Right.
And I found one where I felt I was learning a lot on scripture. And for me, spirituality and what I've learned, I found myself reading the Bible. I think that is the best book.
Right.
It is amazing.
Right.
So I've spent a lot of time on my own. I find that even calling myself religion and Christianity, religion has always been hard. I run from God more than I've listened to him.
Right.
And I
Right.
would say it took me moving to Texas to find my purpose, to listen. And I was raised Catholic, and that was hard for me. I also had a background when I was blessed, but I would say I was probably 7 years old when I went to Hong Kong. It was my grandfather's funeral. He was Buddhist, and I was brought to his
Wow.
funeral. And I remember my aunt taking me to this Buddhist temple, and she asked me to pray, and make a wish. And I remember pulling out like a little chopstick of wish, and they had said, "What did you pray for?"
Mm-hmm.
And I remember looking at them, and this is where I'm like going back now, going, "Wow, I get it." But I
Right.
was reading it, and I was wishing for world peace.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think it's watching too much Miss America shows as a child, but I was like, huh. Even now today, that's even more important.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like wondering what was going on when I was 12 with all the adults in the world, and why did I say world peace? It is something that I find myself today looking at our world and realizing it is needed.
Absolutely.
And so it's my spiritual journey that I've gone on. I think it's amazing. I feel very connected to the spiritual Holy Spirit within myself, and I hear messages and voices, but I think they're funny because I think I've always talked to God as a child. I was always talking to myself. I just didn't know I was having that conversation. But right before I did my very first event, I will tell you, I heard the word sing, and I was like, am I supposed to sing? But it was funny because it was like, I talked to a friend of mine who was a Grammy winning artist, and he said, "Jennifer, don't sing. You won't get your point across." So I didn't sing at the event, but that's a message to me still. I want to
Yes.
pursue.
Well,
Then I got go back to school, and I'm going to share with you all that was hard because I have a master's degree, and I remember when I got my master's, I said I will never go back to school again.
Right.
so
Right.
But
you're blessed that you're able to distinguish messages versus your own thoughts, because I have struggles with that, where is it my own thinking, or is it being put in your head? And I think
Oh,
that's
I just want to mention, this is where I'm learning this now. I'm taking medium lessons. Our mom became a medium. We believe in spirituality. We believe there is, that it's not birth to death. We believe that there's something so much bigger than what we can perceive to be what the God is or the universe is. The thoughts are like a train, and when spirit is talking to you, it's in between the cars of the train. It's the words that are coming. Your thoughts are the main cars, right? It's, oh, I got to go make pasta for dinner, and I got to go do this, and I got to go do that. And then you get these little things in between the train of a car, that you realize that's not your thoughts. And when
right,
when that word sing came into your conscious mind, you weren't thinking, oh yeah, you know what, that's a good idea. I thought of that. That was spirit talking to you. There's no doubt in my mind that was spirit. And this is fascinating. This is fascinating. Do you have favorite verses of the Bible, Jennifer? Is there anything that like really
yeah,
resonates with you? Because like I gotta tell you, we're getting like really, really deep here. Our father passed away a couple of years ago, and he came through this medium recently, and he's like, you got to start looking at the Psalms. He's like,
yes,
you got to start praying to the Psalms and I went online and I bought The Power of the Psalms through my dad, who was communicating with this medium who we've known for a million years. He's the gold standard. His name is George Anderson. All right. He's the real deal.
He is there's life before George Anderson, and then there's life after George Anderson.
Right. That, like we literally communicate with our father through this gentleman, George Anderson, who we highly recommend to anyone listening to this to get a reading with George. It's very expensive, but it's worth it. And George Anderson was saying, your dad is telling you to read into the Psalms. It's going to help you get out of this pickle that you guys are in with COVID, the travel industry. But I see you're looking at something.
I'm going to tell you, I know the two that I would share with you of Psalms.
Yeah.
Psalm 91, and Psalm 23. Psalm
Okay.
91 is, I think, what a lot of the people in the military say
Right.
in Psalm 91, but it's about what's happening right now. And for people that are, there's going to be 10,000 people that'll fall to your right, 10,000 people, another 5,000 to your left,
Right.
but you will be standing. The other thing, the verse that I just have to share with you that I love, because today I posted on LinkedIn that I want to be different. That song that I shared,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you had a chance to listen to it, but
I saw the post. I didn't listen to the song though.
so the very last thing it says is basically Romans 12:2. And do not be conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Oh my God.
So
It's good stuff.
it is good stuff. I love the Bible. It
Yeah.
just has me so grounded.
Right.
And yes, I hear messages. I get, and I know they're not mine.
Right.
I know they're the Holy Spirit, and that I get 2 weeks ago, I got tomorrow is never promised.
Wow.
And I woke up with the knowing that means pretty much seize the day, right?
Absolutely.
I don't worry about tomorrow because today has enough problems. That's also a message that I got.
Right.
And that's directly in the Bible. And I just feel that I know what my plans are. My plans are how I can help others. And this whole idea of spiritual wellness is important. Helping others through this. Like, I want to be the voice for those women and children that have lost theirs. Because I don't like getting on podcasts. I don't like being on.
Really?
Yeah. No,
Really?
this is you're my first podcast that isn't just a voice one.
Interesting. Okay.
No, so I don't like podcasts.
So when you made the switch from corporate America, I commend you so much because it seems like you're following your passion. And
Yes.
not many people get to do that, right? Not many people get to leave the rat race. I'm doing quotation, leave the rat race, so to speak, and get to follow your passion. Was that scary to do that?
Well, it still is. It still is, like, it's the same thing. Who am I listening to? What messages am I getting, and where am I going? I came back to Southern California. My husband didn't go with me to Texas when I went to Texas. I was there to take care of my mother, and I was her guardian, and I knew that she didn't have that much more time on earth. So I moved to Texas temporarily. When I came back here to Southern California just this past October, right the week of COVID striking, I was interviewing with Amazon Studios, and it was a 6-hour interview.
Yes.
And it was a behavioral interview. And I'll be honest, I felt like I was being assimilated back into the Borg. It's like, wow, the COVID came and just closed everything up. And I'm like, wow, did I dodge a bullet? I will say I was really going to tell you what I'm doing with, with our Rescue Party Give, which again is my nonprofit. And so what I share with what I do with the other company is the fact that my goal is to spend 80% of my time on work of my nonprofit. My husband wants me to go back to work to make money, right? So that he can retire. And my goal is, you know what? I've got this little niche. I've got this team that I'm going to build. And so anyone in our industry that wants to think about how they can get involved with wellness, they can contact me. They can contact my team. And that's something I have on Facebook. I do have a little site that I call the Shopaholics Wellness Guide.
Okay.
So that's me. And then I will say this about one thing. I brought 2 branding experts last week to help me on my website for my nonprofit. And I'm planning to have a big global virtual event. And I want to have some support and help from as many to participate in that too. But what's happened when I brought these marketing, branding experts, I have a marketing undergrad degree. I just never really used it, but I am very, I know that I can do this. But the funny part was I had these people that had they've supported Toyota, they've supported Microsoft, and they were helping brand these companies. And I was told, stop what you're doing. And I'm like, what? And that message was funny because he goes, well, I just think I love your mission, I love your vision, but I think you need to rethink some things. You're going too big. I had my other friend from marketing share with me. She's like, Jennifer, it sounds like you're going to try to boil the ocean. And I'm going to share, I had to go back to both of them. First, this other woman, I said to her, which is funny, I think it's funny. I said, you know what? If God could part the sea, then he can help me boil the ocean. Because she thought I was just trying to grasp too much. But human trafficking has huge tentacles in so many different aspects and areas
Well,
of what is being, so there's problems with, in our country, there's problems with the foster care system. There's problems with runaways. There's problems with and I'm going to share some statistics with you that I think is going to have you. This is where I want you to protect your own children, your own family.
Mhm.
But the average age of a child that enters into prostitution is 12.
Oh my God. It is the United States?
This is the United States of America. So we're talking about children that are about 6, 7 years old. Now, what's happened then is that something happened in the childhood. So family, whatever. I'm going to share, like I've done a lot of journaling. I've written to God basically saying, why me?
Mhm.
And I got that message, if not you, then who?
Mhm.
And so I was like, okay. And I had to look back. And one thing that I'm going to share, there are two things in my childhood that I would actually say had me thinking, okay, this could happen to anyone's child. So I was in the backyard playing by myself at 3, and my teenage neighbor brought me into his backyard and he sexually assaulted me.
Terrible. I'm sorry to
I
hear that.
I was not. I was definitely, I remember. There are things that I remember, but I was taken to the hospital, and everything was fine.
Mhm.
But I think about that situation. I introduced that with the nonprofit when I did it that evening. But I said, but think about and this is in Texas, the
Mhm.
40,000 children that are missing. Who's going to rescue them? Who's
the
going to save them?
40,000 kids in Texas?
Just in Texas
Just in
alone?
Texas.
Why isn't this on
Well,
why isn't this on the
I
news?
wanna say one thing. You have an amazing message and you have an amazing story that can be used as inspiration. And, I know you said I don't know if you said that you don't like podcasting or you don't like these types of things, but there's no better way to get your message out. And I implore you to consider doing what we're doing and
I love
having
it.
your own podcast, and you can interview people who have
Yeah.
been victims of human trafficking and prostitution and all of that. And I think that would be an amazing tool to get to spread your message, where you can raise unbelievable awareness. And
I gotta tell you, Jennifer, like I grew up on the North Shore of Long Island. My Eric and I are very pampered. We're very blessed to have the lives we had. We've had a few run-ins with people who were unsavory characters over our lifetime. Like everything's not always peaches and cream, but you deal with strangers that you come across these things that are gross. I don't I don't know why this is not front page news. I don't know why this is not talked about on the mainstream media. I don't know why this, like they talk about COVID, and COVID's a terrible, terrible situation across the board. But why isn't this being made aware? I had no idea about this.
I mean, just the
You
fact
have to find
40,000.
you have to find it. You have to find it where the news, you shouldn't have to find this.
No.
Question to you is, why isn't this mainstream? All mainstream media, they brainwash the people on what is the hot news, what's the important news, but we're really not discussing the most important topic of all, human trafficking. Again, does this play into the porn industry?
Yes, it does.
How
It
so?
definitely does.
How so?
So I think the fact is, well, right now it's even more difficult. We're talking about cyber sexting
Mhm.
because there is, with COVID, so many people aren't able to go and travel to where they are actually going out into the different places, countries,
Mhm.
cities. They're not going out of their own homes. There's a lot more situations of abuse going on right now for many children. It's a
Mhm.
scary time. It's also, the fact is, yes, pornography is one of the areas that is a problem. It
Mhm.
supports human trafficking.
My
Many
God.
people start with that, right? They start watching porn, and then they need to get a more different fix, right? It needs to get more bizarre in what they see. And the thought that children are being put in positions where they're being filmed and having to do certain things. And we're talking young children. We're talking children the age of 3 years old. We're
Oh my
talking about
God.
situations of infants. I mean, it is a very dark situation within our world.
So, I've been thinking in my head, like,
Thank God for that, Eric.
sometimes it works. So you went into the travel industry, and
Eric,
then
Eric, before you
hold on one
get
second,
into that,
hold on, let me finish
all right,
my thought.
because I'm not done with
You
my
were I know, I know.
my
You
previous.
were in the travel industry, and then you went into the nonprofit world and human trafficking and whatnot. I feel like it was a bit divine that happened, because you made your connections, right?
Yeah.
And there's no better connected community in the world than the travel community. And now you're using that networking, that connection, to help build on to human trafficking. And I feel like the travel community should really get behind this, because it's right in our backyard. It's on boats, it's on planes, it's in taxis, it's in cars. And I think it's our responsibility to raise awareness to this behavior and this topic. And I feel like it wasn't an accident that you were a corporate travel manager. And now it's not an accident that you're doing what you're doing. That was the point that I was trying to make, Michael.
I appreciate that. I think, yes, that is that message that I got, right,
Mhm.
when I journaled. If not you, then who?
Right.
And I have been a very singular voice in the corporate travel and meeting industry. Now, I think you probably all heard of End Child Prostitution and Trafficking. That was another nonprofit that I actually worked very closely with, and I was an advisor to them for many years. Same thing, I had gone to them, but they're in New York City, and I'm in West Coast. And so it was a really hard connection to even say that I could work with them directly. But they were one of the organizations that thought I would want too much of a salary to get involved. So again, I'm starting on my own, but I'm going to do it differently. So ECPAT, there's so much need, right? That's the thing. There's so many different organizations fighting this issue on the front line. My group and my team, we're going to stay at the 40,000 foot level, like the airplane, like the helicopter, looking down and being able to separate see the forest from the trees. And that's kind of the goal of what we're looking to accomplish. I've got a bunch of, corporate executives that have joined my team. Same thing, with the vision that I really believe it is time. We have different political, different journey with faith, but we all believe in loving thy neighbor.
Mhm.
And this is the biggest thing that I would tell you that God wants from us.
Mhm. I got to tell you. Yeah, go ahead. Keep going.
I just have to tell you something funny, because it is something that's interesting for me, is that I graduated from Virginia Tech. I found out that Miss America, this last year's Miss America, she's from Virginia Tech. She won Miss America because of a science project.
Wow.
And I connected with her on LinkedIn to see if she would be interested in getting involved and helping. And this is where I see that every single person can get involved in this issue.
Mhm.
And she reached out to me. She's very interested in participating with what
Great.
what I might be doing. I'm looking to potentially have her facilitate a session where we interview just individuals in the street, everyone that's getting involved in this, whether you're a
Yep.
physician and you've seen
Yeah.
the situation, whether you're an airline pilot and you've actually been going through the logs and things like that.
Mhm.
You're a flight attendant, you're a hairdresser. This is the thing where I want to create an environment where everyone is like, we're all helping each other,
It's
and we're
amazing.
helping that
That's
little.
amazing. And the internet is the great equalizer in the world, where the good information will rise to the top. And if you can get somebody like that to help spread the message, it's brilliant, brilliant,
You-
brilliant, brilliant.
Jennifer, you're kind of like an Erin Brockovich in exposing. No, you're exposing things that really not many people even. I
The Epsteins and the Harvey Weinstein,
Yep.
that
100%.
right, and it's everywhere.
Do you
Um,
do you think Epstein was killed?
yes.
Yeah.
That's my, that's my own,
Yeah, no,
I
I
think
get it. I think I think you kind of have to be stupid not to think he was, how could, he was so embedded. There was that documentary on Netflix. It was amazing of who he was connected to and the people who he knew and as high up as, and I don't even know where this guy came from. Like, the documentary did a really lousy job of saying where he came from. He was some money manager at Morgan Stanley, I think.
And then all of a sudden he
And then it
owned
was
an
like,
island. Yeah,
right.
he
And then
owned
he
an
had his
island.
own island. Something doesn't add up. Something doesn't add up. There's more to it. And again, this isn't some conspiracy theory podcast, but dealing with people like Harvey Weinstein or dealing with people like Jeffrey Epstein, I mean, their comeuppance, like, sometimes you don't have to do anything. That karma will come back to them at some point in their lives, and the karma stick will. You don't want to be in the same state when that karma stick comes back to them.
I think it's evil. I think it's when you look at Hitler,
Yeah.
you can put Jeffrey Epstein, you can put Jeffrey Dahmer. They aren't. There's a possession in some respects. I mean, when you hear about people that are human traffickers, that is something that they gloat over, the fact that they have the power over others. And that's why I don't believe Epstein committed suicide, because
He loves himself
he's a
too much.
power monger.
Yep.
And that thing, it's like, he thought he was in the right. He didn't think that he was doing anything wrong. I will share with you one thing that I remember when I was in the Dominican. We got to go to a court hearing of someone that was arrested for trafficking. And when he was asked why did he do that, he said, "What else was I supposed to do with all my money?"
Yes.
He felt like he was doing the bazaar thing. Was he thought he was helping this young, children.
How does someone look to take advantage of a little girl?
Well, I think Jennifer said it, that there's evil and it's spiritual warfare. And like you have the angel on one shoulder and you have the devil on the other shoulder. I think there's a reason why those depictions have been made, right? Because there's either way that you can go.
Yeah. I think the world, we are what you said earlier, Michael. We are being desensitized. We've been desensitized for a long time with what's going on in the news.
Yes.
With being on film, look at movies like, when I have to say, I mean, I enjoyed Pretty Woman, that movie, a long time ago, before I ever went on my journey. But Pretty Woman was this, like, look at it.
They sensationalized prostitution. Like, let's call it what it is. It was a great song. It was a great movie in '89, but like, it's about a prostitute getting out of that life and becoming this queen, which is.
And can you imagine how many young women probably thought, oh, maybe that's how I'll make my living now?
Right. So you think Hollywood is part of the problem?
Yeah, I know it is.
That's crazy.
So
that's crazy.
Those are the things that, I'm going to tell you. If I had to share with you where God has told me to be, he's told me come back and address that in Beverly Hills and Hollywood. And I did when I came back in January, I was helping another woman with her event in Beverly Hills, because I thought to connect with her, or, I wasn't even sure what I was going to do with the nonprofit when I moved back, but I knew I had to figure out where the fit was here in Beverly Hills and Hollywood. And I helped her with her event, and it was at this beautiful gallery. And on the walls were devil images, and this woman didn't care, but I did. So I got together with a friend of mine who is a professional photographer, and I took photos that I have taken through my last year, pictures of love. And I had my friend Matt frame them, and I put them to a story. And I'm going to share, the funny thing is, I did it to a Star Trek log, which I'm going to share with you, is the reason the mission statement of Rescue Party Give comes from Star Trek. From space, the final frontier, comes freedom, the ultimate journey. This is the reason for Rescue Party Give, to help out and seek out. So I've done the whole, and I'm going to share this with you because this is really interesting, and I hope you can see this, but I was asking God, why Star Trek? And I woke up and I just looked up Leonard Nimoy, because I wanted to understand this symbol of a peace-loving nation. He got this from his Jewish faith. when the priests would be in the synagogue, they would do this together.
Mhm.
And it means Al Shaddai, Almighty God.
Wow.
So I introduced Rescue Party Give to everyone as this is a blessing to community, but a calling to me.
Yeah, it certainly is.
I
That was
applaud you. I
beautifully.
applaud you in your efforts.
Yeah,
And, you know, we would, as you endeavor onto your frontier, we will gladly support you. And
100%. Before you say that, Eric, let's talk Toyota. I mean, you were the travel manager for Toyota. And I know it's like a really bad segue into like child trafficking and prostitution and porn, but let's talk about Toyota. How did you get into that? How did you get into that position? I mean, that's coveted.
You know, it was interesting. I was brought in and hired. I was told many people wanted that position,
Yeah.
right? I had a wonderful time at Toyota.
Mhm.
I had amazing, you know, friends there. My best friend, and I'm going to say this has always been a God thing, but my best friend, we have been connected since we got our master's degree together.
Wow.
We met. We were put in as roommates in a weekend that we had to go away with. We ended up being roommates. That's how we met. But every single thing along the way, she's actually in a completely different background. She's got computer science as her background,
Mhm.
but she also came to work at Toyota. And the funniest thing, out of 19 buildings in Torrance, California, we were on the same floor,
love that.
same building.
That's the universe. That's the universe working.
That's
I mean, like,
synchronicities.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
like that wasn't a mistake.
Of course you guys were pulled together. You know,
right.
it's just the way it works.
She is my heart, and the same thing. I feel that there's so many people that are coming right now and hearing what we're doing. Like I am being connected right now, just I think through God. I pray every night the right
Mhm.
people come forward to help with what I'm doing. And I'm connected with a young girl from Albania.
Mhm.
I'm another woman from the UK. I do believe this is global. I'm going to take Rescue Party Give global in terms of, because it is a global issue.
Mhm.
My board does want me to focus on, you know, we're all in Texas. They want Texas, but I'm like, this is big. It's
Right.
everywhere. California's #1, Texas is #2, Florida is #3.
My
Wow.
God.
There is a movie that I think you should see called Florida Project.
Mhm.
And it just shows how homelessness is also contributing to trafficking, human trafficking.
Mhm.
So that's a movie, but there's so many situations right
Have
now.
you seen a situation where a normal girl from a normal home in a nice community was pulled into this dark side of
Yes,
of what we are? Really?
yes.
Like,
You know, there's
I have a daughter, she's 8 years old, and that just absolutely terrifies me to hear. That and I'm on top. I watch everything she does, make sure she's not, she's not on unsavory websites, and she's a really sweet person. She's a sweet girl, and I try to be a father to her in the vein of, you know, be careful on what links you click, Kayla. It can hurt you. And she's very good at that. I mean, there was this one thing for this YouTube thing where if you clicked on it, you would become possessed or something. It was like this Momo. It was a hoax, but like I told her about it, saying be very careful because you can click on a video and up could pop something pornographic or something diabolical or something violent. And she gave up that website. She didn't want to. She gave up that channel. She's like, I'm not gonna check on that channel ever again. So, um,
think to your point, Michael, you know, just the fact that you're sharing with me the kind of parent you are is important. But I'm going to tell you, a lot of the families, th- they're not like the ideal. They're not like the Brady Bunch,
gotcha.
right?
Yep.
The majority of
There's a
families are not
facade.
like living in the Brady Bunch,
Well,
and so
my father used to say the fish stinks from the head, right? And as my wife and I are the heads of our home, it's our responsibility to guide our children to say, okay, this is good to do, this is not good to do. That's and we could only do so much,
So
but
it starts with parental education. You know, I was talking with that doctor before. He's like, you know, you get a license to drive a car, you get a license to fly an airplane, you get a license to get married, but there is no license to have children. And that creates a lot of issues. There should be some type of training class that
a mental test or a mental examination
a
to say,
mental examination to say, you know, are you this is the best way to raise children, and they do it for driving. Why couldn't they do it for having children? They do it. They make you sign something to get married. You have to be of a certain age, you know.
I'm going to share with you, Eric, something funny because I think this is from your father as well, a message when he tells you to read Psalms. But I'm going to share that the Bible is probably the best parent book out there.
okay.
It's got great parenting messages, huge, especially if you start reading Proverbs.
Okay.
There's 31 Proverbs. You can read them daily, right? You go back every month. You just read the one that's applicable for the day. And that's what I do. And I think that that is something that is very important to me. I put my phone away from my bed because that's not what I want to get caught up in.
Right.
I have my Bible right next to my bed, and I read that. I read that for 10 minutes just to ground myself and really kind of ask myself, what is the focus for today, and what should I be doing? And so I'm going to share with you today. You know, there's the message that I pulled out, which I thought was really cool, was, let's see, today's the 21st. It was specific to, he who shuts his ear to the cry of the poor will also cry himself and not be answered.
Wow. It's incredible.
And that's the message that I kind of felt like today was about. It's like focus on, you know, when I knew I was coming on this podcast, I felt like this is probably where I needed to focus on my message.
Where can people find you to get your word out, Jennifer? I mean, this is so important.
Yeah, what's your platform of choice, and
yeah,
you know, your website and everything.
Where can people contact you? Where can they get involved? Where can they contribute?
So we have rescuepartygive.org is our website. And I am at Jennifer at rescuepartygive.org.
Okay.
And then, yeah.
Yeah, no,
wonderful.
This is amazing. And you're doing God's work here. I got to tell you, you opened mine.
You're making a difference.
Yeah. And you opened mine and Eric's eyes. You should do a documentary and you should do a podcast. You should, social media today, anything can go viral. Look at what Blackfish,
you know, like look at what we're doing for our limousine service. You know what I mean? Like it's so inconsequential compared to what you're tackling. This stuff is easy. Creating content that gives people value and education. The cream rises to the top.
Blackfish toppled SeaWorld. Right? SeaWorld, everyone grew up going to SeaWorld. It was the greatest place, Shamu. They were swimming with the whales and everything. And then they pulled back the curtain on what SeaWorld was actually like, that it was a violent place, that there were, you know, the fish were not happy and the animals were not happy and they were being abused and the trainers were getting eaten and all that terrible, terrible stuff. And SeaWorld shifted from being primarily animal-based to having more rides, right? Because they had to shift. You have to shift.
Education will shift.
Yep.
Will shift the world.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. I'll be connecting with you again, hopefully. And then
100%.
I might need some coaching to do what you got.
No, we are here to help. Hang out for a second. We're going to do the sign off. Everybody like, subscribe, comment, share.
And share this to everyone you know, because Jennifer's going to be making a difference, you know, big time.
We thank you guys for tuning in. Hang out for 1 sec.
Bye, everybody.